I heard that the victorious divine marshal general brought back a stunningly beautiful maiden. In the grand hall, the emperor asked him what reward he desired. He declared he wished to annul his betrothal to me and wed that maiden instead. The emperor was overjoyed, immediately issuing 3 imperial decrees, one annulling the betrothal, one granting the marriage, and one summoning me to the palace. On the day I entered the palace, I removed the veil ID worn for years, unmoved. I watched the gasps of the crowd and the dazed expression on the divine marshal general's face, the emperor. However, pushed aside the eunuch beside me with a smug look, wrapped his arm around me, and boasted, "Hurry up and pay your respects to Her Majesty the Empress." Main text. The cicadas outside the window screeched through the entire summer. I sat beneath the pomegranate tree in the rear courtyard of the Shen residence, my fingertips idly tracing the cool glaze of my green enameled teacup. A corner of the bamboo curtain fluttered open in the breeze, carrying in the clamor of the Capitala murmur of maidservants' hushed whispers. "Have you heard? General Xiao Jingxuan, the divine warrior, has returned victorious." The young maid, loose voice, brimming with unchecked excitement, shattered the courtyard stillness. My hand holding the cup paused, but I did not look up. Xiao Jingxuan's name had accompanied me for 3 years. He was the fiancé personally bestowed by my father, the Emperor, the youngest war god of the Dain dynasty, and the dream suitor of countless noble ladies in the capital. He's not just returned. Another maid, Chuntao, chimed in, her voice thick with gossipy fervor. "Word is the general brought back a peerless beauty. They say she's so stunning she could make fish sink and geese fall from the sky. He's been doting on her the whole journey, even set up a separate tent for her in the military camp, treating her better than his own sister." Lu gasped. "Is that true? What about our young mistress?" Her words trailed off abruptly, replaced by cautious probing. I slowly lifted my gaze. The veil obscured most of my features, revealing only a pair of serene, unruffled eyes. Sunlight filtered through the pomegranate tree's branches, casting dappled shadows upon my plain white sleeves. "Continue." My voice was light, devoid of emotion. Chuntao hesitated, then whispered, "Word has spread throughout the capital. They say the general won a great victory this time, achieving unparalleled glory. Yet his heart and eyes are fixed on that young lady. Some say the general might petition the emperor to dissolve his engagement to our young mistress and marry that beauty instead." These words fell like a pebble into a tranquil lake, yet stirred only an imperceptible ripple within me. 3 years ago, when the Shen and Xiao families were betrothed, all hailed it as a match made in heaven. At that time, Xiao Jingxuan was just beginning to show his prowess, while the Shen family, though lacking military power, was a scholarly lineage renowned for its virtue. The emperor personally bestowed this match both an alliance and a counterbalance. Yet no one knew that this marriage, envied by all, was nothing to me but a transaction of mutual convenience. I had met Xiao Jingxuan only a handful of times, and each encounter revealed a gaze of detachment and impatience, as if this union were a stumbling block on his path to glory. I raised my hand to touch the white veil over my face. My mother had placed it there before her death, saying I should keep it until I met someone who truly cherished me. For 3 years, I wore it, shielding myself from prying eyes and unnecessary disturbances. "Miss, please don't take it to heart," Lu said, growing uneasy at my calm expression. "Those are mere rumors. How could the general truly call off the engagement? You are the emperor's personally chosen bride." I shook my head gently and drained the cool tea in my cup. The cool liquid slid down my throat, extinguishing that insignificant ripple. Rumors rarely arise from nothing. I rose, my skirt sweeping lightly across the stone floor. "Pack your things. Perhaps we'll be entering the palace soon." Lu and Chuntao exchanged puzzled glances. clearly baffled by my sudden certainty. They assumed I was troubled by the rumors, unaware that my mind was as clear as a mirror. Xiao Jingxuan was ambitious. This great victory marked the peak of his power. He would never allow a marriage he disapproved of to bind him. That suddenly appeared beauty might merely be an excuse for him to break off the engagement. Or perhaps, someone he genuinely wished to protect. To me, none of this mattered anymore. At dusk, the gates of the Shen residence were knocked upon. The eunuch's voice pierced the courtyard stillness. "Miss Shen, receive the imperial decree. His Majesty summons you to the palace tomorrow at dawn for urgent matters," kneeling on the ground. I listened to the eunuch's shrill voice, feeling not the slightest surprise. Indeed, what was bound to come has finally arrived. This humble maiden receives the decree, grateful for the Emperor's grace. I bowed my head to pay homage, my voice steady and unruffled. After the eunuch departed, Lu looked at me with deep concern. "Miss, could His Majesty's sudden summons truly be about annulling the betrothal?" I lifted my hand to remove the jade hairpin from my hair, letting my long, jet-black locks cascade over my shoulders. "Whether it is or not, we shall know tomorrow." Gazing at my blurred reflection in the bronze mirror, my features obscured behind the veil, I instructed, "Lu, prepare a simple, understated palace gown for me tomorrow. Nothing too flashy." Deep into the night, the Shen residence fell silent. Lying in bed, sleep eluded me. Flashes of Xiao Jingxuan's rare appearances danced through my mind. His handsome features, his upright bearing, and those eyes that always held a distant gaze. I had never harbored grand hopes for him. So naturally, I felt no disappointment. Yet my mother's dying words still echoed in my earstow: protect the Shen family and protect myself. These past 3 years, I wore a veil and kept a low profile. All for this day. I knew tomorrow's palace would be anything but tranquil. What would Xiao Jingxuan say? How would Father Emperor decide? And where would I go from here? Moonlight filtered through the window lattice, casting a soft glow upon the bedside. Slowly, I closed my eyes, holding fast to one thought. No matter what lay ahead, I, Shen Qingyi, would never be a pawn in anyone's game. The morning sun was at its peak, its rays making the paulownia leaves lining the palace path glisten. I walked step by step along the blue stone slabs toward the Hall of Supreme Harmony. The hem of my court dress brushed the ground, unadorned and simple. The plain moon-white fabric only deepened my sense of calm. The eunuch guide walked ahead, his steps light and brisk. Occasionally, he glanced back at me, his eyes carrying a hint of scrutiny. I kept my gaze fixed straight ahead, fixed on the vermilion palace gates before me, my heart clear and unclouded. The moment I stepped into the Hall of Supreme Harmony, the clamor within instantly fell silent. Civil and military officials lined both sides, their gazes fixed on me, curious, probing, and tinged with sympathy. I knew they were all waiting for a spectacle. The farce of my betrothal to Xiao Jingxuan. In the center of the hall stood a towering figure. Xiao Jingxuan wore silver armor, still bearing the dust of battle and the lingering aura of the battlefield. He appeared even more heroic than 3 years prior, his brow and eyes now carrying an added sharpness of decisive combat. Yet those eyes still held the familiar detachment I knew well. By his side, I saw no trace of the rumored beautiful concubine. Presumably, court protocol barred women from entering the Grand Hall of Harmony, but from the officials' suggestive glances, it wasn't hard to guess that the young lady must have been placed in a side chamber. Your humble servant, Shen Qingyi, pays homage to your majesty. Long live the Emperor. Long live! Long live! I knelt and bowed, my voice steady, without a trace of timidity. Rise. The Emperor's voice boomed from the dragon throne, tinged with an elusive smile. As I rose and looked up, I caught a fleeting gleam in his eyes, sparking a vague suspicion within me. The emperor's gaze swept between Xiao Jingxuan and me before settling on Xiao Jingxuan, and me before settling on Xiao Jingxuan. Jingxuan, you have subdued the northern frontier and achieved remarkable military glory. Name your reward, I shall not be stingy. Silence filled the hall as all eyes focused on Xiao Jingxuan. He was the war god of dying, and this great victory could elevate him to even greater heights. A noble title. Military command. Gold and jewels, whatever he desired. The emperor would likely grant. Xiao Jingxuan stepped forward, kneeling on one knee. His voice was firm and resolute. Your Majesty, what I seek is neither a noble title nor a salary, nor gold and treasures. The emperor raised an eyebrow. Oh. Then what do you seek? Xiao Jingxuan took a deep breath, his gaze fixed directly on me. For the first time, his eyes held an emotion beyond detachment, something like guilt, yet also like resolve. Your Majesty, I humbly request your gracious permission to dissolve my betrothal to Miss Shen. The words fell, and the hall erupted in an uproar. Officials whispered among themselves, their eyes darting between Xiao Jingxuan and me, their expressions tinged with schadenfreude. I stood rooted to the spot, my fingertips curling slightly, yet my face remained expressionless. This scene had been anticipated, yet hearing it spoken aloud felt profoundly ironic. 3 years of betrothal had ultimately rendered me a discarded pawn in the wake of his triumphs. The emperor seemed unsurprised, even smiling. Oh, Jingxuan, this betrothal between you and King Yi was personally bestowed by this emperor. Why do you suddenly wish to dissolve it? Your Majesty. Xiao Jingxuan's voice held a note of earnestness. During this campaign, I encountered a woman who saved my life. We have found mutual affection and wish to protect each other for the rest of our days. I do not wish to delay Miss Shen, nor do I wish to betray my true feelings. I humbly request your grace in granting this request. Mutual affection, life-saving favor. I sneered inwardly. These excuses, indeed, sound quite noble. He merely feels that now. He needs a woman more suited to him, more rather, one who better satisfies his desires. The emperor pondered for a moment, then turned his gaze to me. Qing Yi, do you object to Jingxuan's proposal? All eyes focused on me, waiting for me to cry or plead. Even Xiao Jingxuan lifted his head, his expression toward me tinged with complexity, perhaps guilt, perhaps impatience. I spoke slowly, my voice calm, yet carrying clearly throughout the hall. Your Majesty, marriage is a matter of mutual affection. Since General Xiao has found his heart's desire, this humble maiden has no objection. Be of a composure surpassed everyone's expectations. The astonishment on the official's face is growing even more pronounced. Xiao Jingxuan also paused, seemingly taken aback by my swift acquiescence. The emperor's smile deepened. He slammed his fist on the armrest of the dragon throne. Excellent! Truly worthy of being the daughter of Grand Scholar Shen Yu. Understand propriety and reason. No sooner had the words left his lips than he bellowed. Proclaim my decree. The eunuch outside the hall immediately bowed and responded. Your servant is present. First decree. The emperor's voice boomed with authority. The betrothal between Divine Marshal General Xiao Jingxuan and Shen Qingyi is hereby dissolved. From this day forth, their engagement is null and void, and they shall have no further connection. Second decree. He paused, turning his gaze to Xiao Jingxuan. Grant General Xiao Jingxuan a marriage contract with commoner Su Lianyue. Choose an auspicious date for the wedding, and I shall personally preside over the ceremony. Su Lianyue must be that famed beauty of legend. My heart remained utterly still as I listened in silence. Third decree. The emperor's gaze fell upon me, tinged with both inquiry and certainty. Shen Qingyi is gentle and virtuous, understanding propriety and upholding righteousness. She is hereby specially conferred the title of imperial consort. She shall enter the palace immediately and reside in Fenyi Palace. The third imperial decree sent the entire hall into an uproar. Officials whispered among themselves, their faces etched with shock. No one had anticipated such a decision from the emperor. Not only had he annulled the betrothal, but he had also directly conferred upon me the title of imperial consort, ordering me to reside in the Phoenix Grace Palacia, palace reserved exclusively for the Empress. Xiao Jingxuan abruptly looked up at the emperor. His eyes filled with disbelief. Your Majesty. This. What? The emperor raised an eyebrow, his tone carrying a hint of authority. Jingxuan, you have married the woman of your heart. I cannot let King Yi suffer. A woman as exceptional as Miss Shen should not be wasted among the common folk. I knelt once more and bowed deeply. This humble maiden accepts the decree and thanks the sovereign for his boundless grace. My voice remained as calm and unruffled as ever, as if it were not I who had been bestowed this honor. Xiao Jingxuan looked at me, his expression complex and hard to read surprise, confusion, and a hint of some other, indefinable emotion. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but ultimately closed it and bowed. This subject obeys the command. The emperor nodded with satisfaction. Very well. This matter is settled. Xiao Jingxuan, you've just returned to court. Go rest first. I'll have someone arrange the wedding details. King Yi, you shall remain in the palace today to familiarize yourself with the surroundings of Fengyi Palace. Your servant obeys. Your servant obeys. Xiao Jingxuan and I responded simultaneously. Yet the emotions in our voices were worlds apart. His voice carried a hint of stiffness, while mine remained as still as water. Stepping out of the Grand Harmony Hall, the sunlight felt almost blinding. I raised my hand to shield my eyes and caught sight of Xiao Jingxuan hurrying to catch up. Shen Qingyi. His voice carried a hint of urgency. Is there nothing you wish to say to me? I halted and slowly turned. My gaze, veiled behind the veil, rested calmly upon his face. What does General Xiao wish to say? He looked at me, his handsome features etched with turmoil. I am sorry, it is unnecessary. I spoke softly. It was wise of you to dissolve our betrothal, General, since your heart belongs to another. As for me, to receive the Emperor's profound favor and be elevated to imperial consort is already a tremendous blessing. My tone was too flat, as if I were speaking of someone else's affairs. Xiao Jingxuan watched me, his eyes deepening with guilt. I know I have wronged you, but Su Lianyue and I truly love each other. I cannot betray her. Truly love each other. I repeated the words softly, a fleeting, almost imperceptible curve touching my lips. Then I wished the General and Miss Su a life of harmony and companionship, growing old together. With that, I turned away without another glance at him, following the eunuch who led the way. Xiao Jingxuan stood rooted to the spot, watching my receding figure until I vanished from sight. His fist tightened. He couldn't shake the feeling that the Shen Qingyi before him was somehow different from the timid, unassuming woman he remembered. As for me, I walked silently behind the eunuch toward Fenyi Palace, my heart utterly still. The title of imperial consort, Fenyi Palacenone, of this was what I desired. Yet I knew it was the bargaining chip the emperor had given me, the capital I needed to protect myself and the Shen family. I lifted my head to gaze at the towering palace ahead, silently pondering. Was my father's gesture born of genuine affection, or did it conceal ulterior motives? Regardless, I, Shen Qingyue, would never become a pawn to be manipulated at will. The palace attendants of Fenyi Palace had long been waiting respectfully at the entrance. Upon my arrival, they knelt in unison, bowing deeply. Your humble servants pay homage to Her Imperial Highness the Consort. Long live the consort! Long live! Long live! Surveying the scene before me, I drew a deep breath. From this day forward, I would be the consort of the great Yin dynasty, residing in Fenyi Palace. And the storms within these palace walls had only just begun. The crimson walls and glazed tiles of Fenyi Palace shimmered brilliantly in the sunlight as I stepped through the palace gates in my deep red court robes. Even the lanterns lining the corridors seemed to glow with heightened vibrancy. This robe had been hastily crafted overnight by the imperial household department, embroidered with intertwined lotus patterns. The gold thread outline shimmered in the light and shadow. As the hem swept across the floor, it resembled a crimson carpet unfurling before me. Green calyx followed behind, carefully cradling my jewelry box, her steps cautious and deliberate. The palace attendants knelt in unison on the ground, the air thick with silence, broken only by the soft rustle of my skirt sweeping across the golden brick floor. "Greetings, Your Imperial Highness." The head matron bowed respectfully, her voice hushed yet tinged with curiosity. They had served in the palace for years, witnessing countless beauties, yet none like revealed since entering the palace. Her true face unseen even by her betrothed on the eve of their wedding. I nodded for them to rise, my gaze drifting indifferently over the palace. The Phoenix Grace Palace truly lived up to its name-carved beams and painted rafters, floors paved with gold bricks, even the window frames inlaid with tiny pearls. Every detail exuding nobility. Yet behind this grandeur lay hidden dangers and treacheries, the extent of which no one could fathom. No need for formalities. Rise, all of you. My voice remained as cool and neutral as ever, betraying no emotion. As the matrons rose, their gazes instinctively fell upon the white veil covering my face, their expressions unabashedly probing. Rumors had long circulated throughout the capital that the daughter of Grand Scholar Shen was hideously ugly, hence her perpetual concealment behind a veil. Now that I had entered the palace to be crowned a consort, they naturally wished to see for themselves what kind of appearance could compel the emperor to disregard the gossip and directly bestow Fenyi Palace upon me. Before long, the shrill voice of a eunuch echoed outside the hall. "His Majesty approaches. General Shenwu approaches." My heart stirred, and I lifted my gaze toward the palace doors. The emperor, clad in a bright yellow dragon robe, strode in with steady steps, followed closely by Xiao Jingxuan. He had shed his armor, now wearing a dark blue brocade robe with a jade sash at his waist, making his figure appear even more upright. Yet, the moment he entered, his gaze settled on me, carrying a complex mix of scrutiny. Indeed, a woman followed at his side, dressed in pink robes. She possessed delicate features and fair skin, undeniably beautiful. This must be Su Lianyue. She timidly trailed behind Xiao Jingxuan, her eyes flickering with unease and a hint of hostility toward me. "This humble servant greets your majesty." I curtsied, my movements precise and respectful. The emperor helped me up, his gaze lingering on my face for a moment before he smiled. "King Yi, your attire today truly enhances your dignified bearing." His tone carried a hint of amusement, as if he had anticipated everyone's curiosity. Xiao Jingxuan looked at me, his brow slightly furrowed. Perhaps he too was curious about the face hidden beneath this veil. Su Lianyue tilted her head slightly, appraising me with a barely perceptible sneer of contempt in her eyes. I was merely an ugly woman who had entered the palace through family connections, utterly unworthy of competing with her. The palace attendants and matrons within the hall all held their breath, waiting for the moment I would lift my veil. I raised my hand, my fingertips brushing the veil's ribbon, worn for 3 years. The fabric had softened, its edges embroidered with delicate orchid patterns stitched by my mother's own hand before she passed. With a gentle tug, the ribbon loosened, and the white veil slid slowly down, settling onto the floor. In that instant, The hall fell deathly silent, every gaze fixed upon my face. The air itself seemed to freeze. I could feel countless eyes upon Mestund, awestruck, incredulous. Lu covered her mouth. Her eyes brimming with delight had served me for years, yet only glimpsed my true face a few times during baths. My appearance was not the hideous monstrosity rumored throughout the capital. My mother had been a renowned beauty who captivated the capital in her youth. I inherited her features. Willow leaf brows, almond-shaped eyes, with slightly upturned corners, carrying a natural allure tempered by the calmness in their depths, lending an air of cool detachment. My nose was high and straight, my lips full and naturally cherry pink. Together, they formed a rare and exquisite beauty, especially those eyes. After 3 years of silence and endurance, they had long lost the innocence of youth, replaced by a serene calm as still as water, which only added to their allure. This can't be possible, Su Lianyue gasped, her voice thick with disbelief. She had always believed me to be an ugly woman, convinced that Xiao Jingshuan had made a wise choice in breaking off our engagement to marry her. Yet now, upon seeing my true appearance, her face instantly drained of color. Xiao Jingxuan's reaction was more intense than anyone else's. He stared at me in a daze, his pupils suddenly contracting. He seemed frozen in place, as if under a spell, utterly motionless. His face was etched with shock and a hint of panic, as if he'd never imagined the fiancée, had discarded like a worn-out shoe, could be so breathtakingly beautiful. He recalled our few meetings 3 years prior, when I'd always worn a veil, revealing only my eyes. Back then, he'd found those eyes too calm, devoid of any spark. Only now did he understand what kind of extraordinary beauty lay hidden beneath that serenity. An indescribable emotion surged within him: regret, frustration, and a vague, inexplicable panic. He instinctively took a step forward, his lips parting as if to speak, yet unsure what words to utter. The palace attendants around them finally snapped out of their daze, low gasps of astonishment rising in waves. Miss Shen is truly this beautiful. Her beauty surpasses even Shishi's. Those rumors must have been false. How could someone this stunning be called ugly? The murmurs were quiet, yet clear to every ear. Xiao Jingshuan's expression darkened further. His fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. Suddenly, he understood he might have committed an enormous mistake. For Su Lianyue, he had forsaken such an unparalleled beauty. The emperor observed the scene, a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. Yet he remained silent, merely watching Xiao Jingshuan's loss of composure with keen interest. I stood rooted to the spot, oblivious to the surrounding gasps and Xiao Jingshuan's reaction. Removing my veil was not for show. Once inside the palace, wearing it would seem contrived. Besides, Mother had said I should only unveil myself when I met someone who truly cherished me. Though I hadn't found such a person yet, I no longer wished to hide behind a veil. Shen Qingyi needed no veil to protect myself. Slowly, I lifted my gaze, my eyes calm as they swept over Xiao Jingshuan. His expression was dazed, his eyes complex, filled with deep regret. Not a ripple stirred within me, not even a trace of mockery. His remorse held no meaning for me. Your Majesty. I turned my gaze to the Emperor, my tone still unruffled. The veil is now removed. I fear I have given Your Majesty cause for amusement. The Emperor snapped back to attention and laughed heartily. Amusement. With a beauty like Qingyi's. If word were to spread, it would surely make every man in the realm fall head over heels. Xiao Jingshuan. Wouldn't you agree? He deliberately steered the conversation toward Xiao Jingshuan, his tone tinged with teasing. Xiao Jingshuan snapped back to reality. his face alternating between pale and flushed. He opened his mouth but could only force out a few words. Yes, Miss Shen is as beautiful as a flower. He couldn't even meet my eyes. His voice tinged with embarrassment. Su Lianyue stood nearby, her face pale. Her hands clenched the hem of her skirt tightly. Her eyes filled with jealousy and unease. She could sense that Xiao Jingshuan's gaze no longer rested on her with the same intensity as before. Watching this scene, I felt nothing but irony. The world adores beauty. And Xiao Jingxuan was no exception. His abandonment of me back then might have stemmed partly from believing the rumors of my ugliness. Now that the truth was revealed, he would naturally regret it. But what good was regret? Some choices, once made, could never be undone. The emperor seemed quite pleased with Xiao Jingshuan's reaction. He patted my shoulder and smiled. Qingyi, henceforth, you shall be the mistress of Fenyi Palace. Feel no restraint within these walls. With me here, no one shall dare wrong you. Thank you for your majesty's kindness, I replied, curtsying in gratitude. Though my heart remained guarded, the emperor's attitude felt uncharacteristically warm. Why was he elevating me so? Was he truly captivated by my appearance? Or did he seek to use me as a counterweight against Xiao Jingxuan? Xiao Jingxuan watched my interaction with the emperor, his regret deepening. Suddenly, he felt he might have pushed away not just a peerless beauty, but also a nobility and opportunity he could never attain again. He glanced at Su Lianyue, then compared her to me before him. Instantly, Su Lianyue's beauty seemed to fade. Your Majesty. This servant. Xiao Jingshuan opened his mouth, as if wanting to say more. The emperor waved his hand, cutting him off. Jingshuan, you've just returned to court. There must be many matters requiring your attention. Lady Lianyue has also endured a long journey. Take her back to rest first. I have matters to discuss with the imperial consort. His tone carried an unquestionable authority. Xiao Jingshuan could only bow deeply. Your servant obeys. He fixed me with a long, lingering look, his eyes brimming with complex emotions: regret, reluctance, and a hint of probing. Only then did he turn and leave the Phoenix Grace Palace, leading a dazed Su Lianyue with him, watching their retreating figures. My heart remained utterly still. The chamber fell silent once more. The emperor's gaze settled on my face, tinged with scrutiny. Qingyi, you seem utterly unconcerned by Xiao Jingshuan's choice. I lifted my eyes to meet his, replying with calm assurance. Your Majesty, a forced union yields no sweetness. Since General Xiao has found his heart's desire, why should this servant compel him? Moreover, Your Majesty, I am already profoundly blessed to have received your deep favor and been granted the honor of entering the palace as a consort. I dare not ask for more. The emperor smiled, his eyes holding a hint of depth. You are indeed perceptive. However, Qingyi, you must remember that within these palace walls, mere perceptiveness is not enough. His words carried hidden meaning, and though I understood his implication, I only responded respectfully. This humble servant will bear His Majesty's words in mind. The emperor said no more, offering only a few more words of reassurance before departing Fenyi Palace with his eunuch. Finally, only Luowei, the palace attendants, and I remained in the hall. Luowei hurried to my side, her face aglow with excitement. Miss, you looked absolutely stunning. Those rumors are utter nonsense. Did you see General Xiao's expression just now? He must be filled with regret. I offered a faint smile. Whether he regrets it or not is none of my concern. I bent down, picked up the veil from the floor, and gently smoothed out its creases. This veil had carried my mother's hopes and accompanied me for 3 years. Now, it could finally retire with honor. Lu, put it away. I handed her the veil. I won't need it anymore. Lu took the veil, carefully placing it in the jewelry box. She nodded firmly. Yes, miss. From now on, you are the noble consort. You needn't fear what others say anymore. I gazed out the window at the sky, sunlight perfect. Not a cloud in sight. Removing the veil was merely the beginning. The path ahead in the palace would be anything but smooth. Xiao Jingxuan's remorse, Su Lianyue's jealousy, the emperor's scheming, and the covetous eyes of the other consorts. These would be challenges I must face, but I am not afraid. From the moment I first donned that veil, I learned to endure and persevere. Now, by removing it and revealing my true face, I also reveal the sharp edge of Shen Qingyue, this imperial palace, this court, since they have drawn me into their web. I shall play along to the very end. At the hour of Chen the next day, as I stepped into the Hall of Supreme Harmony once more, the morning court had just dispersed. Civil and military officials still stood in the hall. Their expressions varied. I wore yesterday's crimson court attire, my face unveiled, exposed without concealment to all eyes. The moment I crossed the threshold, a collective gasp filled the air. Yesterday's fleeting glimpse in Fenyi Palace had evidently spread within a small circle. But today, before the entire court, my appearance still left many officials seeing me for the first time utterly transfixed. Some wore expressions of astonished beauty. Others pondered silently, while a few cast teasing glances toward Xiao Jingxuan clearly. They all knew of his past broken engagement. Xiao Jingxuan stood among the military officers, his dark blue brocade robe accentuating his increasingly somber expression. His gaze settled on me. Complex and hard-to-read shock, regret, and a hint of indescribable struggle. He must have tossed and turned all night after returning yesterday. Your humble servant greets your majesty. I curtsied, my voice as calm and unruffled as ever, seemingly oblivious to the peculiar atmosphere within the hall. Rise. The emperor's voice carried a hint of pleasure as he gestured for me to approach. Qingyi, I summoned you here today to announce an important matter. I stepped into the center of the hall, remaining several paces away from Xiao Jingxuan, my gaze never meeting his. The officials exchanged puzzled glances, clearly baffled as to why the emperor had kept them behind after morning court, and summoned a newly arrived consort. Several veteran ministers wore expressions of confusion, as if they wished to speak. Seated upon the dragon throne, the emperor's gaze swept across the assembled officials before settling upon me, his eyes brimming with undisguised satisfaction. Yesterday, I conferred the title of imperial consort upon Shen Qingyi, who now resides in Fenyi Palace. I trust you have all heard the news. The officials bowed in unison. We are aware, Your Majesty. But after much deliberation, the emperor shifted his tone, his voice suddenly rising. Qingyi is the daughter of Grand Scholar Shen. She is gentle and virtuous, possesses great understanding and righteousness, and her beauty is unmatched. Her character is upright and proper. The rank of imperial consort is truly beneath her. The moment these words were spoken, a murmur of whispers filled the hall. The elder ministers lifted their heads, their eyes filled with shock. They seemed to have guessed something, yet couldn't bring themselves to believe it. Xiao Jingxuan's body stiffened abruptly. He snapped his head up to look at the emperor, his eyes brimming with disbelief. He instinctively took a step forward, as if to stop something, but the emperor gave no one a chance to speak. Slamming his fist on the dragon throne's armrest, he bellowed, "Today, before all my ministers, I issue another imperial decree. Shen Qingyi shall be crowned Empress of Dayin. The ceremony shall be held in 3 days. Fenyi Palace is the rightful residence of the Empress is only fitting." What? Crown her Empress. The hall erupted in uproar. This time, no one could maintain their composure. Veteran ministers stepped forward in unison, kneeling and prostrating themselves. "Your Majesty, This cannot be. Your Majesty, Lady Shen has only just entered the palace and was once betrothed to General Xiao. To crown her empress so abruptly will surely not win the people's acceptance. Indeed, Your Majesty, the coronation of a queen is a matter of state. It demands careful deliberation. Voices of dissent rose in waves. The officials' faces flushed with agitation, clearly unable to accept the emperor's sudden decision. In their eyes, though my family background was respectable, being crowned queen immediately upon entering the palaces, especially with a history of broken betrothal, was utterly improper. Xiao Jingshuan stood frozen, his face as pale as paper, his gaze fixed on me, brimming with shock, regret, and a hint of despair. He could never have imagined that the fiancée he had personally cast aside would, in the blink of an eye, become the empress who would set the standard for all women in the realm. To him, this was nothing short of a colossal irony. He opened his mouth, wanting to speak, but found his throat tightening, unable to utter a single word. He felt the gazes of the surrounding officials piercing him like needles. Laden with scorn and contempt, he recalled the peerless beauty he had seen yesterday in the Phoenix Grace Palace, remembered his own act of breaking off the engagement for Su Lianyue's sake, and a wave of regret surged through him like a tidal flood, nearly overwhelming him. I stood rooted to the spot, facing the chorus of opposition filling the hall. Yet my heart remained still as water. The matter of crowning her empress had indeed caught me off guard. But I knew the emperor's decision was far from impulsive. What he sought, perhaps, was not merely a consort, but a means to strike at Xiao Jingshuan, declare. Even with your glorious military achievements and overwhelming power, you can only possess what I choose to grant, and you must surrender what I choose to reclaim. And I was but a crucial pawn in the emperor's chess game. But I do not mind being a pawn, as long as this pawn can protect myself, protect the Shen family, and afford me the chance to uncover the truth behind my mother's death all those years ago. It is enough. The emperor gazed at the officials kneeling in protest, his expression darkening. What? Do you ministers object to my decision? The authority in his tone gradually silenced the dissenting voices in the hall. The officials exchanged nervous glances, none daring to speak further. They knew the emperor's temperament well. Once he made a decision, he rarely changed his mind. Your Majesty. A white-haired elder minister finally spoke up, his voice trembling. It is not that we object, but the matter of crowning the empress seems too hasty. And Miss Shen? What of Miss Shen? The emperor cut him off, his gaze piercing. Her family background is pure, her character upright, her beauty captivating, what makes her unfit for empress. It is you. His eyes swept over Xiao Jingshuan, who see only her past betrothal to Jingshuan, yet forget who first broke that vow to seek another. Xiao Jingshuan bowed his head lower, his expression darkening. The emperor continued. I know you must believe I am crowning her empress solely for her beauty, but I tell you, that is not the case. While Grand Scholar Shen was alive, he served the great Yin dynasty with utmost devotion. The Shen clan has always been loyal and virtuous. King Yi inherited her father's brilliance and her mother's virtue. What fault is there in such a woman becoming my empress? He paused, his voice growing more authoritative. This matter is settled. No further discussion is needed. The coronation ceremony shall be held in 3 days. Whoever dares speak against it shall be punished for defying the imperial decree. Though discontent simmered within the officials, none dared oppose him further. They bowed in unison. Your subjects obey the command. The emperor nodded with satisfaction, his gaze shifting to me. The sternness vanished instantly, replaced by a hint of smugness. He strode swiftly from the dragon throne, brushing aside the eunuch who stepped forward to assist me, his hand extended, wrapping itself directly around my shoulder. This gesture was far too intimate, utterly improper before the entire court. My body stiffened slightly. Yet I made no attempt to pull away within the Hall of Supreme Harmony. I held no right to refuse. The Emperor held me close, as if displaying a rare treasure, and bellowed to the officials. Hasten to pay homage to Her Majesty the Empress. The officials froze for a moment, before snapping to attention. They knelt in unison, their voices rising in perfect harmony. We, your subjects, pay homage to Her Majesty the Empress. Long live the Empress. Long live. Long live. A sea of figures knelt on the floor, their collective shouts reverberating so powerfully that the glazed tiles on the palace roof seemed to tremble slightly. Watching this scene unfold before me, I felt no joy, only a profound stillness. This position of Empress had come unexpectedly, yet it was also entirely logical. It was glory. It was honor. But above all, it was a weighty responsibility, the gaze of countless eyes, the target of countless open and hidden threats. I lifted my gaze, my eyes calmly sweeping over the kneeling officials before finally resting on Xiao Jingshuan. He remained rigidly prostrate, his head bowed low, his expression hidden. Yet I could imagine his tormented heart, surely filled with bitter regret. Gently freeing myself from the Emperor's embrace, I knelt and bowed toward the dragon throne, my voice clear and composed. Your humble servant, Shen Qingyi. Thanks, Your Majesty, for his gracious favor. Henceforth, I shall fulfill my duties diligently, assist Your Majesty, manage the imperial harem, and live up to Your Majesty's trust and affection. The Emperor gazed at me, his eyes brimming with admiration. Excellent. This is the Empress that deserve. He once again took my shoulders and led me toward the throne. From this day forward, you are the Empress of Dain. Stand beside me, and together we shall oversee this vast empire. I said nothing, merely standing quietly by his side, my gaze drifting toward the palace gates. Sunlight streamed through the vermilion palace gates, illuminating the golden brick floor within the hall, yet failing to reach every corner of this deep palace. The coronation ceremony was set for 3 days hence. This meant I had only 3 days to adapt the role of Empress and prepare for the impending turmoil. The consorts of the harem, the opponents in the court, and Xiao Jingxuan and Su Lianyuan, none of them would let me off easily. But I am not afraid. From the moment I donned the veil, I learned to endure and grow strong. Now, having removed it to claim the throne of Empress, I have even less reason to retreat. Xiao Jingxuan, Su Lianyue, and all the hidden enemies lurking in the shadows, bring it on. I, Shen Qingyi, dared to ascend this throne of Empress, and I possess the strength to defend it. The officials slowly rose, their gazes upon me transformed. There was reverence, curiosity, and wariness. I knew that from this moment on, I was no longer the low-key Miss Shen, nor the newly arrived imperial consort. I was the Empress of Dain, setting the standard for all women. My every word and action would resonate throughout the court and the realm. The Emperor seated me beside him on the phoenix throne, flanking the dragon throne, and began discussing the details of the coronation ceremony with the officials. I listened quietly, offering only concise and appropriate replies when the Emperor sought my counsel. Xiao Jingshuan stood among the officials, his head never raised, yet his rigid posture betrayed the turmoil within. I knew his remorse had only just begun, and my journey as Empress had only just begun. After the coronation ceremony, the threshold of Fenyi Palace was nearly worn away. Court officials and their families, along with the imperial consorts, came in droves to pay their respects, inside and outside the palace halls. The bustling crowds and carriages created a lively scene that lasted for several days. Each day, I navigated these superficial social obligations, wearing a polite, faint smile on my face. Yet my mind remained clear and unclouded. Their attentions were largely directed at the title of Empress. Not at me. Shen Qingyi, personally. The moment I lost that status, their attitudes would shift instantly. I had long seen through this. So I maintained a deliberate distance, neither too close nor too distant, neither humble nor haughty. As the commotion faded, Fenyi Palace returned to its former tranquility, and Xiao Jingshuan began appearing in the palace with increasing frequency. At first, he found legitimate reasons. He might report military affairs. Then, after audience with the Emperor in the Grand Hall of Harmony, conveniently stop by Fenyi Palace to pay his respects. Or he would present rare treasures from the frontier, claiming they were specially offered to Her Majesty the Empress. Sometimes, he even lingered near Fenyi Palace under the pretext of paying respects to the Empress Dowager. His intentions were blatantly obvious. One afternoon, as I sat reading in a side hall of the Phoenix Grace Palace, Lu entered to report, "Your Highness, the Divine Marshal General requests an audience outside. He says he has tribute items from the frontier to present to you." Bipai hand paused on the book as I replied coolly, "Have him present them to the Imperial Household Department. I have no need for such things, but Your Highness." Lu hesitated. "The General insists these tributes were specially procured for you and must be seen by you personally." I closed the book, a flicker of impatience crossing my eyes. Xiao Jingsuan's persistence was truly vexing. Yet he remained the Grand General, holding military power, though I was now Empress. It would be unwise to show him outright disrespect. Let him enter. Moments later, Xiao Jingshuan entered with Lu, clad in a jet-black brocade robe and a tiger-head jade belt at his waist. His posture remained as upright as ever, though his brow and eyes now bore an unshakable shadow of gloom. Holding a brocade box, he strode swiftly before me and bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, the Empress, I present my respects. General, you may rise." I lifted my gaze to meet his, my expression serene and unruffled. "What tribute has the General brought today?" Xiao Jingshuan extended the brocade box, his voice tinged with barely perceptible tension. "Your Majesty, this is warm jade, unique to the frontier. It is said to soothe the spirit and strengthen the body when worn. Considering Your Majesty's labors within the palace, I sought it out especially to present to you." Louis took the box, opened it, and presented it before me. Inside lay a flawlessly white warm jade, its texture smooth and lustrous, truly a rare treasure. I glanced at it briefly before averting my gaze. "The General is thoughtful. Lu, accept this and convey my gratitude to him." "Yes, Your Majesty." Liu carefully stored the box away. Xiao Jingshuan, however, showed no intention of leaving. He stood rooted to the spot, his gaze burning intensely upon me. That look was too fiery, laden with deep regret and a hint of greedy longing, almost as if it could swallow me whole. His stare made me slightly uncomfortable, and I frowned slightly. "If the General has no further business, please withdraw. I must attend to matters of the harem, Your Highness." Xiao Jingshuan's voice was slightly hoarse. He took a step forward, as if he wanted to say something, yet hesitated. His gaze lingered on my face, from my willow leaf brows to my almond-shaped eyes, then to my cherry-pink lips. He scrutinized every detail, as if trying to etch my features into his very bones. "Your Majesty." His mouth opened, his Adam's apple bobbed, but only a few words emerged. "Your Majesty looks exceptionally well these days." A cold laugh echoed in my heart. Exceptionally well. Merely because I'd shed my veil in some of the shackles weighing on my heart. And now he notices my complexion. How laughable. "Thank you for your concern, General." My tone was flat, as Empress. It is only natural that I take care of my health to manage the harem well and live up to His Majesty's trust. Betweening words carried a clear detachment, as if reminding him that an unbridgeable chasm now separated us. He was a subject. I was the Empress. There was no possibility left. Xiao Jingshuan paled. His gaze grew heavier with regret. He recalled 3 years ago, if only he hadn't believed those rumors of my ugliness. If only he'd shown me more patience. If only he hadn't broken off our engagement for Su Lian Yue's sake. Would he be the one standing beside me now? He thought of Su Lian Yue, the woman he once believed to be his lifelong love. After seeing my true face, he now found her appearance ordinary and her demeanor petty and narrow-minded, far inferior to my cool dignity, composed grace, and commanding presence, especially now that I am Empress. The majestic dignity befitting a mother to the realm is something Su Lianyue could never hope to match. A wave of intense regret washed over him, nearly suffocating him. He regretted his rashness, his poor judgment, and pushing away such an unparalleled beauty with his own hands. Most of all, he regretted losing a bond others could only dream of. Your Majesty, he spoke again, his voice tinged with pleading. What happened back then was my foolishness. I wronged you. You truly have no room for leniency. I lifted my gaze to meet his eyes. My expression still calm, yet tinged with a barely perceptible mockery. The general jests. I am now the Empress of the great Yin dynasty. Between us lies only the distinction of sovereign and subject. What room for leniency could there possibly be? But General, I cut him off, my tone suddenly turning colder. The past is the past. Further discussion serves no purpose. You should return now, lest others see you and speak of your close association with the Empress. It would be detrimental to your reputation and tarnish my own good name. Be words poured like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing the last flicker of hope in Xiao Jingshuan's heart. He stared at me, his eyes brimming with anguish and despair. His lips trembled, yet no sound escaped them. He knew I was right. Now that I was Empress and he was a subject, any further entanglement would not only tarnish my reputation, but also arouse the Emperor's suspicion, jeopardizing his own career. Yet he couldn't control himself. Whenever he had a moment, he yearned to enter the palace. To see me even a distant glance would bring him some peace. Standing nearby, Lu watched Xiao Jingxuan's disoriented state and felt a quiet satisfaction. He had been so ruthless in breaking off their betrothal. Now that the young lady had become Empress, he regretted it. Serves him right. Xiao Jingshuan fixed me with a piercing gaze, his eyes brimming with regret, resentment, anguish, and lingering attachmental, culminating in a heavy sigh. Your servant takes his leave. He bowed deeply, then turned and walked step by step out of the side hall. His retreating figure bore traces of desolation and disarray. Stripped of the former war god's formidable presence, watching him depart, my heart remained utterly unmoved. Xiao Jingxuan's remorse was nothing but insignificant dust to me. When he abandoned me all those years ago, he should have foreseen this outcome. Matters of the heart are always a matter of mutual consent. Once betrayed, there is no turning back. I picked up the book on the table and opened it once more. This time, however, my mind was elsewhere. Xiao Jingshuan's frequent visits to the palace were becoming a nuisance. His remorse not only affected me, but could also give the Emperor ammunition to criticize, potentially even implicating the Shen family. I had to find a way to make him abandon this notion completely. Noticing my grave expression, Lu asked softly, Miss, what are you thinking? I lifted my gaze, a cold glint flashing in my eyes. Lu, should General Xiao seek an audience again, tell him this palace is indisposed and will not receive external officials. Yes, Miss. Lu responded immediately. She had long wished to spare me Xiao Jingxuan's disturbances. I nodded lightly, returning my gaze to the book. Yet deep down, I knew this was likely only a temporary measure. Xiao Jingxuan's obsession ran deep. He would not abandon his pursuit so easily, nor would the turmoil within the palace cease simply because I desired peace. Sure enough, over the next few days, though Xiao Jingxuan did not personally come to Fengyi Palace to seek an audience, he would invariably chance upon me on my way to pay respects to the Empress Dowager. Each time we crossed paths, he would halt, bow deeply. Yet his gaze remained fixed on Mirgret nearly spilling from his eyes. I merely offered a faint nod each time, passing by without a glance to the side, not even digging to speak a word. The palace servants had long been whispering among themselves, saying the divine marshal general could not forget his old affection for the Empress and regretted breaking off their betrothal. Naturally, these rumors reached the Emperor's ears. I expected the Emperor to be displeased, perhaps even reprimand Xiao Jingxuan. Yet surprisingly, he seemed utterly unconcerned. Sometimes, he would even deliberately show affection toward me in Xiao Jingxuan's presence, as if intentionally provoking him. This only deepened my confusion. The Emperor's thoughts were too profound, impossible to fathom. Did he truly intend to use me as a counterweight against Xiao Jingxuan? Or did he harbor genuine affection for me? Regardless, I must remain clear-headed within these palace walls. Only by relying on myself can I stand firm. Neither Xiao Jingxuan's regrets nor the Emperor's scheme should sway me. Gazing at the falling paulownia leaves outside the window, I silently resolved, Xiao Jingxuan, if you persist in your stubbornness, do not blame this palace for discarding old affection. The autumn palace banquet was a lively affair. Banquet tables filled the area around the Chengrui pavilion in the imperial garden, the sweet fragrance of osmanthus mingling with the scent of wine. Drifting throughout the entire garden, dressed in a bright yellow phoenix robe, I sat composed on the imperial throne beside the Emperor, receiving the homage of the consorts and noble ladies with an unflappable expression. Xiao Jingxuan sat among the military generals, his gaze drifting toward me from time to time, tinged with a complex longing. Beside him, Su Lianyue wore a pomegranated brocade gown, her hair adorned with a crimson gold hairpin inlaid with emeralds, making her skin appear even more fair. Yet, her brow betrayed an unmistakable unease and reluctance. This was Su Lianyue's first palace banquet since her betrothal to Xiao Jingxuan. Attending as his fiancée, by protocol, she was required to perform the formal kneeling salute before me, the Empress. When her turn came, she hesitated for a moment before finally bending her knees. Her voice carried a hint of reluctance. This humble maiden, Su Lianyue, pays her respects to Her Majesty the Empress. Long live the Empress. Long live. Long live. Her head was bowed low, yet she did not perform the required kowtow. Her reluctance plain. All eyes instantly turned to her, some curious, some amused, a few even sympathetic. Everyone knew she had stolen the Empress' former fiancé. Now, having to kneel before her former rival, she must surely be suffering. I lifted the teacup from the table, sipped lightly, and spoke in a calm tone. Miss Su, you may rise. Ens Su Lianyue stood. She glanced up at me. Her eyes burned with intense jealousy and hostility, as if she could devour me whole. She likely believed that without me, she would have been Xiao Jingxuan's wife, and the position of Empress might not have been beyond her reach. Midway through the palace banquet, Su Lianyue approached me again under the pretense of offering a toast. She held a cup of wine, her face strained into a smile, though her eyes remained unfriendly. Your Highness. She raised her cup. This humble maiden offers you a toast, wishing you robust health and the grace to rule as the nation's mother. I did not take the cup, merely replying coolly, I cannot hold my liquor well. Let tea serve as wine instead. Lu immediately stepped forward to replace it with a cup of tea. Su Lianyue's expression stiffened, seemingly taken aback that I would refuse her favor. Her grip on the wine cup tightened as she spoke tentatively. Your Highness now holds such exalted status. Truly a golden branch and jade leaf. Unlike this humble servant, born of lowly origins, who lacks even the qualification to offer you a toast. These words appeared humble, yet carried a hint of sarcasm, implying I was oppressing her by virtue of my status. The surrounding murmurs gradually subsided. All eyes turned to me, waiting to see how I would respond. Xiao Jingxuan also set down his cup, watching intently with a tense expression. He seemed to want to step forward, but, constrained by protocol, dared not act rashly. I lifted my gaze to meet Su Lianyue's eyes. There was no trace of anger in my eyes, only utter calm. Miss Su is joking. Social standing is predetermined by heaven. As General Xiao's betrothed, you are a noblewoman of the great Yin dynasty, and thus entitled to offer toasts. It is merely that this princess is not adept at drinking. Not that I intended to be disrespectful, be words, were flawless acknowledging her status while justifying my actions, leaving her no room to find fault. Su Lianyue's expression darkened further. She bit her lip, seemingly unwilling to let the matter drop. Her gaze swept over my imperial robe, her eyes brightening as if she'd found a new opening. Your Imperial Majesty's robe is truly magnificent. The embroidery, the fabricate must be one of a kind in all the land. Yet I've heard that when you were in the Shen household, you were known for your frugality, rarely wearing even a decent piece of jewelry. Now that you've become Empress, you seem to have grown ever more particular. These words implied I had grown greedy for wealth and forgotten my roots. Green Petal's face turned pale with fury. She opened her mouth to retort, but I silenced her with a sharp glance. I smiled faintly, my tone remaining calm. When I was in the Shen household, I was the daughter of the Shen family. Naturally, I had to uphold the virtues of a scholarly family and live frugally. Now, as Empress, I represent the dignity of the great Yin dynasty. My attire must match my station. This is not vanity, but duty. Should Miss Su marry into the general's household someday, as the general's wife, she too will surely understand this responsibility. B words countered her mockery, while subtly hinting at her future role, reminding her to watch her words and actions. Su Lianyue was rendered speechless by my words, her face alternating between crimson and pallor as she stood rooted to the spot. Utterly flustered, she hadn't anticipated that beneath my gentle demeanor lay such sharp wit, leaving her utterly unable to counter. The noble women around us lowered their heads, covering their mouths to stifle their laughter. They had always disdained Su Lianyue, a commoner who had captured the divine martial general's heart with little more than her looks. Now she dared to be insolent before the Empress. This humiliation was well-deserved. Xiao Jingxuan watched Su Lianyue's flustered state, his brows furrowing deeply. He knew she harbored resentment, but hadn't anticipated such recklessness, openly provoking the Empress at a palace banquet. This would not only humiliate her, but also bring disgrace upon him. He rose swiftly, striding to Su Lianyue's side before bowing deeply to me. Your Majesty, Lianyue is young and ignorant, lacking understanding of court etiquette. Her words have offended your Majesty. I beg your Majesty's forgiveness. Su Lian Yu hadn't expected Xiao Jingxuan to not only fail to defend her, but to rebuke her instead. Tears instantly welled up in her eyes as she looked at Xiao Jingxuan with hurt. Brother Jingxuan. I didn't. Silence. Xiao Jingxuan snapped, cutting her off. Apologize to Her Majesty at once. Su Lianyue was startled by Xiao Jingxuan's harshness. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Yet she stubbornly bit her lip, refusing to apologize. Watching this scene unfold, I felt utterly unmoved. Su Lianyue's provocation seemed to me nothing more than a childish tantrum. She believed that Xiao Jingshuan's favor would allow her to run rampant within the palace, unaware that within these deep walls, beauty was plentiful. But what was most valued were rules and boundaries. Enough, I said indifferently. Miss Su is new to the palace. Her ignorance of protocol is understandable. General Xiao need not be so harsh with her. Just ensure she is properly instructed henceforth, so she avoids such discourteous behavior again. Thank you, Your Highness, for your magnanimity. Xiao Jingxuan exhaled in relief, hastily pulling Su Lianyue toward me. Hurry and thank Her Highness. Su Lianyue shot me a hurt look before reluctantly curtsying. I beg Your Highness forgiveness. Rise. I waved dismissively. Return to your seat. Don't spoil everyone's enjoyment. Xiao Jingxuan pulled Su Lianyue back to their seats in quick steps. After sitting down, Su Lianyue still sniffled softly, her eyes brimming with resentment. Xiao Jingxuan looked at her, his face full of helplessness. But he could only offer a few quiet words of comfort. His gaze returned to me, carrying a hint of apology and gratitude. I averted my gaze from them, lifting my teacup to observe the autumn scenery outside the window. Osmanthus blossoms drifted down, blanketing the stone path like a painting. This minor provocation was like a pebble tossed into a lake to create ripples. But they soon subsided. Su Lianyue's tactics were too crude to pose any real threat to me. But I knew this wouldn't be the last time. Su Lianyue was unwilling to accept defeat, and Xiao Jingxuan was consumed by regret. These two were destined to become obstacles on my path to the imperial harem. After the palace banquet, Lu followed behind me, her voice brimming with indignation. Miss, that Su Lianyue is utterly outrageous. She's the one who stole General Xiao from under our noses. Yet she has the nerve to provoke you. If not for your magnanimity, I'd have given her a proper lesson. I smiled faintly. There's no need to stoop to her level. The more impatient she becomes, the more she loses her composure, and the more her shallowness is exposed. In this palace, losing one's composure means losing one's footing. Lu nodded, seeming to understand yet not quite grasping it fully. You are truly wise. Miss, just now, you silenced her with a few word-sits was so satisfying. I said nothing, only quickening my pace. Though I had easily diffused Su Lianyue's provocation, it served as a stark reminder. Within the harem, human hearts were unpredictable. Beyond Su Lianyue, other consorts watched me with hungry eyes. They might not be as overt as Su Lianyue, but their methods could be far more insidious. I must remain vigilant at all times, allowing no moment of complacency. Upon returning to Fenyi Palace, I had barely sat down when a eunuch arrived to announce the Emperor's arrival. I rose to greet him, a hint of puzzlement in my heart. The Emperor seldom visited Fenyi Palace after a palace banquet. Why would he suddenly come today? Your servant greets your majesty. Rise. The Emperor helped me up, a hint of amusement in his expression. King Yi handled herself admirably at the banquet today. That Su Lianyue girl, so full of herself, dared to act insolently before you. I'm afraid you were wronged, be heart-stirred. So the Emperor had witnessed it all. Your Majesty jests. I murmured softly. Miss Su merely lacks propriety. I hold it not in mind. The Emperor smiled, pulling me to sit beside him on the phoenix throne. You are too gentle. Yet it is precisely this resilience within your gentleness that makes me admire you ever more. His gaze settled on my face, tinged with inquiry. Do you truly harbor no resentment toward Su Lianyue, or toward Xiao Jingxuan? I lifted my eyes to meet his, replying with calm sincerity. Resentment? Not really. General Xiao and Miss Su were mutually devoted. The annulment of their betrothal was not an unfavorable turn for me. Had it not occurred, I would not have attained my present status, nor would I have met your majesty. A flicker of approval passed through the emperor's eyes. I am pleased you think this way. King Yi, remember this. Within these palace walls, discernment is paramount. Let bygones be bygones. Grasping the present is the wisest course. Your servant will bear his majesty's words in mind. The emperor nodded, exchanged a few more casual words with me, then rose and departed, watching his retreating figure. I pondered silently. His visit today might not have been solely to console me, but also to test me. He wanted to know if I still harbored lingering feelings for Xiao Jingshuan, if I might lose my composure due to Su Lianyue's provocation, and I gave him the answer he sought. Within these palace walls, to stand firm, one must not only navigate open hostility and hidden daggers, but also discern the emperor's true intentions. I know I have yet to master this art, but I will strive to become an empress who brings the emperor peace of mind and strikes fear into the hearts of his enemies. Su Lianyue's provocation is but a small beginning. The road ahead is long and arduous, yet I shall not retreat. I will meet every challenge head-on, for I am Shen Qingyi, Empress of the great Yin dynasty. The night air was as cool as water. Within Fenyi Palace, the candle flames flickered faintly in the breeze, casting dappled shadows across the chamber. I removed my imperial crown and changed into plain robes. Sitting by the window flipping through a medical text, my mother had studied medicine in her lifetime and left behind many medical books. In my spare moments, I would leaf through a few pages, finding solace in them. After tidying things away, Lu spoke softly. Your Majesty, it is late. You should rest. I nodded, just closing the book when a eunuch's hushed announcement came from outside. His Majesty has arrived. My heart skipped a beat. It was the third watch of the night. The Emperor was known for his diligence. At this hour, he should have been attending to state affairs in the imperial study. Why would he suddenly come to the Phoenix Palace? Without pausing to ponder, I rose to greet him. As I reached the chamber door, I saw the Emperor enter, clad in casual attire and carrying the chill of the night dew. Only one personal eunuch followed behind him, his expression weary, yet his gaze still sharp. Your servant greets your Majesty. Dismiss formalities. The Emperor waved his hand dismissively and strode straight into the hall. His gaze swept over the medical texts on the table. So late, and you still haven't rested. Your servant is not sleepy. I was passing the time by reading. I motioned for Lu to serve tea. Your Majesty, did you come at this late hour for some urgent matter? The Emperor sat down, accepted the hot tea from Lu, took a sip, and then slowly said, after handling state affairs, I stopped by to see you. Are you settling in well at Fenyi Palace? Has anyone dared to treat you with disrespect? Thank you for your concern. Your Majesty, everything is fine. The palace attendants are all very attentive. No one has been disrespectful. I sat down opposite him, my mind still filled with questions. The Emperor was never one to act without purpose. A late-night visit could hardly be merely to see. The chamber fell silent, broken only by the crackling of the candle flame. The Emperor cradled his teacup, his gaze fixed on the dancing light, his expression inscrutable. I did not speak first. Within these palace walls, too many words could lead to missteps, especially when facing an emperor of such profound depth. Caution in speech was paramount. After a long pause, the Emperor spoke in a low, measured tone. Qingyi, do you know why I arranged your marriage to Xiao Jingxuan all those years ago? My heart stirred. This was precisely the question that had long troubled me. The Shen family had been civil officials for generations. A marriage alliance with the Xiao family, who held military power, seemed a match made in heaven. yet it carried hidden risks. Your humble servant is slow-witted and only understood it as your majesty's profound affection. I answered truthfully, lifting my gaze to meet his, seeking answers in his eyes. The emperor smiled. Yet his eyes held a hint of deeper meaning. Profound affection was certainly part of it, but more than that, it was a check. Balance. Precisely. The emperor set down his teacup, his fingertips tapping lightly on the tabletop. Xiao Jingxuan rose to fame in his youth. His military achievements illustrious, his prestige within the army growing daily. Even when his father, the old General Xiao, was alive, the Xiao family wielded immense power throughout the court. Now that Xiao Jingxuan holds authority, the Xiao family's influence is at its zenith. As the son of heaven, I naturally cannot allow one family to dominate. He paused before continuing. The Shen family is a scholarly lineage, generations of loyal officials who command considerable respect among the civil bureaucracy. By uniting you with Xiao Jingxuan through marriage, we can court the Xiao family's favor, reassure the civil officials, and leverage the Shen family's prestige to temper the Xiao family's military power. This is a strategic move-on that hinges upon the balance of power within the court. I understood completely. Indeed. The mind of an emperor is unfathomable. My betrothal to Xiao Jingxuan had been a political transaction from the very beginning. Then, Your Majesty is crowning me. Empress also part of this strategy? I asked softly, my tone calm, without a trace of resentment. The emperor gazed at me, a flicker of approval in his eyes. You are astute. Crown you Empress for 2 reasons. First, you truly merit this position. Your beauty, virtue, and lineage all qualify you to be the mother of the realm. Second, Xiao Jingxuan reneged on our betrothal to marry another. Had I not treated you generously, it would have disheartened the civil officials and exposed my own lack of integrity. Thirdly, he shifted his tone, his gaze sharpening. Xiao Jingxuan now wields immense power. Yet he broke our betrothal for selfish desires. This reveals his ambition and impulsiveness. By crowning you Empress, I intend to show him that the woman he discarded like a worn-out shoe now stands at a height he can never reach. This is both a warning and a lesson. That was it. The fog of doubt in my heart gradually lifted. Every move the emperor made held hidden meaning. His elevation of me was both a profo and favor and a calculated move. This servant understands, I said, bowing. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your frankness. This servant shall fulfill her role as a pawn and not disappoint Your Majesty's expectations. The emperor smiled. You are not only clever, but also perceptive. That is precisely what I admire in you. Unlike other women, who are either affected or utterly foolish, his tone carried a rare ease, shedding the usual weight of his authority. Your Majesty. I hesitated briefly before asking. There is one matter I do not understand, and I wish to seek your guidance. Speak. When my mother passed away suddenly years ago, the palace claimed it was due to illness. Yet I always sensed something amiss. I lifted my gaze to meet the emperor's eyes, a hint of hope flickering within. Does Your Majesty know the truth behind it? When my mother died, I was only 15. The palace announced she had succumbed to a sudden, incurable illness. Yet I recall my mother had always been robust, never suffering from any serious ailment. Moreover, days before her death, she had sent me a letter bearing only 4 words. Beware the Xiao family. Nothing more followed. All these years, I've been haunted by this matter. Yet I've been tormented by the lack of evidence and no one to ask. Now, facing the emperor, I finally mustered the courage to voice my doubts. The emperor's expression darkened. He looked at me, silent for a long time, before slowly saying, Your mother's death was indeed not as simple as passing away from illness. My heart clenched sharply. Your Majesty knows the truth. Your mother was well liked in the palace back then and possessed great insight. The Emperor's voice was low, tinged with regret. She accidentally discovered evidence that General Xiao was secretly training private troops. Before she could report it, she was silenced. The announcement of her death by illness was my decision first, to stabilize the court, and second, to protect you and the Shen family, the Xiao family. My entire body trembled. My eyes filled with disbelief. So mother's death was connected to the Xiao family. No wonder she had warned me in her letter to beware of the Xiao family. Indeed. The Emperor nodded. Old General Xiao harbors great ambition and has long sought to build his own power. The evidence your mother uncovered was sufficient to convict the Xiao family of treason. But at that time, Xiao Jingxuan was fighting on the frontier. If we had moved against the Xiao family then, it could have shattered military morale and even sparked a mutiny. I had no choice but to suppress the matter temporarily and conceal the truth from the outside world. He looked at me, his eyes tinged with regret. I'm sorry for what you've endured all these years, keeping you in the dark, forcing you to live cautiously behind a veil. A whirlwind of emotions churned within me. My mother's death was entangled in such a shocking secret. No wonder father resigned from his post and retired to seclusion shortly after her death, citing ill health. He must have learned something too, choosing to protect the Shen family by keeping his distance. Why does your Majesty wish to tell this to this humble servant today? I asked softly. Because you are now the Empress of Dian, and you have earned the right to know the truth. The Emperor looked at me with unwavering resolve. Moreover, I need your assistance. Your servant is willing to serve your Majesty faithfully. I bowed immediately. The blood feud against my mother, the Xiao family's wolfish ambitions, I would demand justice. The Emperor helped me up. You need not do so. What I require of you is not to charge into battle, but to secure your position within the harem and keep watch on the Xiao family's movements. Though Xiao Jingxuan appears docile now, the ambition within his heart likely burns as fiercely as ever. Su Lianyue's identity, too, is not as simple as it seems. Docile Lianyue. A stir stirred within me. Indeed. The Emperor nodded. I have already had her investigated. Su Lianyue is no ordinary commoner. Her father was once a subordinate of the late General Xiao, later executed for treason. Her closeness to Xiao Jingxuan likely serves another purpose, by shock deepened. So Su Lianyue's background was also suspect. This was far more complex than I had imagined. Your servant understands. I replied solemnly. I shall keep a watchful eye. The Emperor gazed at me, satisfaction flickering in his eyes. With you here, I feel at ease. King Yi, remember this. From now on, we are allies and spouses. I shall stabilize the court. The inner palace rests in your hands. His tone carried a hint of sincerity, no longer purely imperial calculation, but a rare touch of genuine trust. I met his gaze and nodded solemnly. Your servant will remember your Majesty's words. From this day forward, your servant and your Majesty shall share in each other's glory and disgrace. Stand together through life and death. I that moment. An invisible bond seemed to form between the Emperor and me. We both understood each other's goals and recognized our respective responsibilities. This understanding, though unrelated to love, proved stronger than any romantic bond. The night grew late. The Emperor rose to take his leave. Before departing, he looked at me and said, "The night is deep. Rest early, should anything arise. Send word directly to me. Your servant bids your Majesty farewell," watching the Emperor's departing figure. My heart remained unsettled for a long time. The cause of my mother's death, the ambitions of the Xiao family, Su Lianyue's true identity, the political maneuvers within the court. The truth of all these matters surged like a tidal wave. catching me off guard, yet strengthening my resolve. I was no longer Shen Qingyi, confined to a veil and living in constant trepidation. I was the Empress of Dayan, the Emperor's ally. I would avenge my mother, protect the Shen family, and assist the Emperor in securing the throne of Dayan. Liu brought a cup of warm water. "Miss, are you all right? What did His Majesty say to you? You look so pale." I took the cup, sipped the water, and suppressed the turmoil within. "I'm fine." Liu, starting today, pay close attention to the palace's movements, especially news concerning General Xiao's residence and Su Lianyu. Report any sign of trouble immediately. Yes, miss. Liu sensed my gravity and nodded promptly. I walked to the window and gazed at the moon outside. Its light was cold and clear, yet it illuminated the path ahead. The road forward would undoubtedly grow more arduous. The Xiao family's counterattack, Su Lianyu's schemes, the open and hidden dangers within the harem, and the treacherous intrigues of the imperial court all awaited me. But I no longer feared, for I knew I was no longer alone. I had the Emperor's support, the backing of the Shen family, and the wisdom and courage my mother had left me. I clenched my fist. "Mother, rest assured, your daughter will uncover the truth and avenge you. What the Xiao family owes us, I will reclaim with interest." The morning court bell pierced the dawn mist. The atmosphere within the Hall of Supreme Harmony felt several times heavier than usual. Though as Empress I was forbidden by protocol to attend court deliberations, I sat in a side chamber of Fenyi Palace, learning every detail within the hall through the real-time reports of my trusted eunuch. My fingertips twirled a cool jade button, a keepsake left by my mother. The eunuch lowered his voice, relaying the news in rapid fire. "Your Majesty." After General Xiao finished reporting on northern border defenses, he abruptly shifted the topic to your former betrothal to him. By movements paused. Yet I felt no surprise. Xiao Jingshuan's persistent entanglements and remorse over recent days had finally crystallized into a challenge within the court. He resented my ascension to the Empress position, resented even more the Emperor's subtle reprimands against him. Now he sought to use the court's discourse to undermine my standing. What did he say? My voice remained calm, devoid of emotion. General Xiao stated, the eunuch's voice carried a hint of tension, that during their betrothal years ago, Your Highness held deep affection for him. Your sudden elevation to Empress may stem from His Majesty's consideration for the Shen family's honor rather than genuine sentiment. He also said that if Her Majesty still harbors feelings for her former lover, she may struggle to uphold justice and assist His Majesty. Worse still, personal grievances could influence court decisions and undermine the very foundations of the state. Liu, listening nearby, paled visibly and murmured, Miss, General Xiao is going too far. He was the one who broke the engagement first. Yet now he dares to slander you. I raised my hand calmly, signaling Liu to remain composed. Xiao Jingshuan's rhetoric appeared noble and righteous, yet it was utterly treacherous. He made no mention of his own decisive reneging on the betrothal, instead emphasizing the so-called old affection. His sole aim was to make the officials believe that I, as Empress, was undeserving of the title, that I had attained it through the Emperor's pity and the Shen family's status, and might even harbor resentment toward him, thereby influencing state affairs. Such scheming was truly vicious. What was the official's reaction? I pressed. Your Majesty, the eunuch continued. No sooner had General Xiao spoken than several generals among the military officers voiced agreement, saying General Xiao had a point. They argued the Empress coronation had indeed been too hasty and required careful consideration. However, most civil officials opposed this, accusing General Xiao of sowing discord out of personal grievance. They argued that Her Majesty the Empress is virtuous and deserving of her title, and that it was General Xiao who first proposed the annulment of the betrothal. His current change of heart shows a lack of dignity befitting a general. Sure enough, the court had already split into two factions. The Xiao family held deep roots within the military, naturally drawing the allegiance of many generals. Meanwhile, the Shen family commanded great prestige among the civil officials. Coupled with my impeccable conduct since becoming Empress, it was only natural that the civil officials would defend me. This upheaval, on the surface, concerned my position as Empress. In reality, it was yet another clash between the civil and military factions, continuation of the power struggle between the Emperor and the Xiao family. And Your Majesty, what is His Majesty's stance? That was the crucial question. His Majesty remained silent, his expression dark and ominous. The eunuch's voice lowered further. Only just now did he speak, asking General Xiao if he possessed evidence proving Her Majesty, the Empress, harbors lingering affection that compromises her impartiality. I gave a slight nod. The Emperor remained composed, refusing to be provoked by Xiao Jingshuan's insinuations. Instead, he seized upon the crux of the matter: evidence. Accusations without proof were nothing but slander and defamation. How did General Xiao respond? He said there was no concrete proof, but that such feelings were only human, the eunuch replied. He also stated that having spent time with Her Majesty, he understands her nature well. She is not the sort to easily let go of old feelings. Humph. I curved my lips slightly, revealing a trace of scorn. Without concrete proof, he resorts to speculating based on human nature. Xiao Jingxuan has clearly lost his head in desperation. Just then, footsteps sounded outside the side hall. Another eunuch hurried in to report. Your Highness, His Majesty commands you to proceed immediately to the Grand Harmony Hall. Lu's face paled. Miss, the Emperor summons you to the Grand Harmony Hall. This violates protocol. The imperial harem must not interfere in state affairs. This was a rule passed down by our ancestors. The Emperor summoning me to the Hall of Supreme Harmony now was undoubtedly thrusting me into the eye of the storm, with officials already buzzing with speculation. My presence would only fuel greater controversy. Yet I felt no panic. The Emperor's move, though seemingly reckless, was in fact a show of trust. He knew I could handle the situation. Prepare the palanquin. I rose, my voice steady. Li, help me into the imperial robe. No need for elaborate adornments, dignified and simple will suffice. Yes. Miss. Lu, though deeply concerned, obeyed immediately. Soon, clad in a simple, elegant pale yellow phoenix robe, I rode in the imperial sedan chair toward the Hall of Supreme Harmony. As the sedan chair traversed the palace paths, the lanterns lining both sides still glowed, shrouded in the lingering morning mist that carried a hint of chill. Seated within the palanquin, my mind was clear and focused. Xiao Jingshuan sought to use past affection to undermine my position as Empress, nothing more than revenge for the Emperor's rebuke and a vent for his own regret. But he forgot this. Since Shen Qingyi dared to ascend to this throne, she possessed the strength to defend it. Arriving outside the Hall of Supreme Harmony, I took a deep breath, adjusted my robes, and stepped inside. The murmurs within the hall fell silent abruptly. Every gaze turned to Miss Oming, filled with surprise, some with scrutiny, some with sympathy, and some with hostility. Xiao Jingshuan stood in the center of the hall. Seeing me enter, his eyes flickered with complexity, surprise, guilt, and a barely perceptible hint of expectation. Perhaps he thought I would panic, weep, or lose my composure. But he was disappointed. I walked to the center of the hall, curtsied before the Emperor seated upon the dragon throne, my voice clear and steady. Your Majesty, I humbly present myself. May I inquire what urgent matter has prompted your summons? The Emperor regarded me, a flicker of approval in his eyes before he spoke in a deep voice. Qingyi. General Xiao stated before the court that you still harbor feelings for your former lover. He fears you may struggle to uphold impartiality in assisting me with state affairs, thereby undermining the foundations of the empire. Do you have anything to say? All eyes focused on me, awaiting my response. Xiao Jingxuan also watched me, his lips pressed together slightly, as if anticipating something. I rose slowly, my gaze sweeping calmly over the assembled officials before settling on Xiao Jingxuan. In those eyes, there was no resentment. No, panic, only utter composure. General Xiao, I began, my voice cool, yet each word distinct. You claim this servant still harbors affection for another. Might you offer evidence? Xiao Jingxuan faltered, seemingly unprepared for such direct questioning. He opened his mouth, then said, though there is no concrete proof, back when we were betrothed, the events of that time. I cut him off, my tone suddenly turning colder. It was General Xiao himself who personally pleaded with His Majesty in the Golden Hall to dissolve our betrothal. You claimed mutual affection for Su Lianyue and did not wish to delay this servant. How can you now claim this servant harbors deep affection for the general? I paused, my gaze sharp as I fixed it on him. If the general truly believed this servant still held affection for him, why did he insist so resolutely on annulling the betrothal back then? If he truly feared this servant would let personal grievances influence state affairs, why did he abandon the betrothal in the first place, leaving me with this so-called personal grievance? This barrage of questions left Xiao Jingxuan pale and momentarily speechless. I continued. As a daughter of the Shen family, I have known since childhood that family and country come first, while personal feelings are secondary. Now, as Empress of Dayin, my duty is to assist Your Majesty, maintain harmony in the harem, and safeguard the foundations of our nation. General Xiao's repeated claims that my personal grievances would cloud my judgment stem solely from his own regret over breaking off our engagement. Seeing me enthroned as Empress, he is consumed by resentment, thus fabricating rumors to sow discord. My voice was not loud, yet it carried an undeniable force that echoed throughout the entire Hall of Supreme Harmony. The officials nodded in unison, their gazes toward Xiao Jingxuan now tinged with contempt. Indeed, it was Xiao Jingxuan who had broken off the engagement years ago. Yet now he dared to slander the Empress. Truly despicable. Xiao Jingxuan's face flushed alternately pale and crimson. He stared at me, his eyes filled with panic and embarrassment. Am not. I pressed him relentlessly. Then may I ask? General Xiao, when you brought up past affairs in court today, was it truly for the sake of the nation's foundation? Or was it for your own selfish desire to undermine my position as Empress, venting your regret and resentment? Xiao Jingxuan was rendered speechless by my words, standing rigidly in place, unable to utter another syllable. The Emperor watched this scene unfold, his expression gradually softening. He spoke. Qingyi's words are entirely reasonable. Xiao Jingxuan, you have slandered the Empress in the court without evidence, relying solely on conjecture to sow discord. This is truly unbecoming of a great general. He paused, his voice growing more authoritative. The Empress is virtuous and capable. Since her coronation, she has managed the imperial harem with impeccable order and has never once acted improperly. I trust her character and believe she will prioritize the greater good, assisting me in stabilizing the empire. Regarding today's incident, I shall consider it a momentary lapse of judgment and will not pursue it further. But should it happen again, do not blame me for showing no mercy. Your servant obeys the command. Xiao Jingxuan bowed deeply, his head lowered so low, his face was a mask of shame and humiliation. Seeing this, the assembled officials bowed in unison. Your Majesty is wise. The Empress is virtuous. Watching Xiao Jingxuan's defeated retreat, I felt no satisfaction, only a profound stillness. This storm may seem like my victory, but I know it is only temporary. Xiao Jingxuan will not stop here, nor will the Xiao family let this rest. But I am no longer the Shen Qingyi who could be manipulated at will. From this day forward, anyone who dares to challenge my position as Empress, or harm me or the Shen family, will pay the price. This humble consort thanks your majesty for your trust. I curtsied. If there is nothing further, I humbly request permission to return to the palace. Lest the harem be left unattended. Granted. The emperor nodded. I turned and stepped out of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Sunlight streamed through the vermilion palace gates, illuminating the path beneath my feet. Though this storm of the former court had temporarily subsided, I knew it was merely the calm before the tempest. The ambitions of the Xiao family and Xiao Jingxuan's obsession would not vanish easily. The path ahead remained strewn with thorns. Yet I feared nothing. In the warm chamber of Fenyi Palace, silver-threaded charcoal glowed, its warmth failing to dispel the chill that had settled deep within my heart over the years. When the emperor arrived as promised, I had already placed the medical text my mother left me upon the desk. Tucked between its pages was a yellowed letter, her final entrustment before passing. It bore only 8 words. Beware the Xiao family. Protect yourself, your majesty. I rose to pay my respects, my voice carrying a weightier tone than usual. The emperor nodded and took his seat, his gaze settling on the letter and medical text. A flicker of understanding crossed his eyes. You summoned me today to speak of the past beneath the veil. I nodded, sitting opposite him. My fingertips lightly traced the cool jade clasp and ornament my mother often wore in life, and the token that had revealed the Xiao family's secret. Since your majesty has revealed the truth of my mother's passing, I should likewise disclose all secrets to you. I wish to hear the details. The emperor lifted his teacup but did not drink, merely watching me intently. My veil is not worn because of ugliness, as rumors claim, but by my mother's arrangement. I spoke slowly, my thoughts drifting back to the Shen residence years ago. My mother was a master physician. She often entered the palace to treat the empresses and consorts. By chance, she discovered that old General Xiao, under the guise of preparing medicine for the border soldiers, was secretly hoarding medicinal herbs to refine wound treatments. Moreover, the number of private soldiers in his residence far exceeded the regulations. She knew this matter involved far-reaching connections. The Xiao family's power was immense. If they ever discovered it, harm would surely come to the Shen family. I paused, my voice thick with emotion. At that time, His Majesty had just bestowed the betrothal, unable to defy the imperial will. Mother had me wear a veil, publicly claiming I bore a facial blemish. This served 2 purposes: to avoid the Xiao family's scrutiny and to allow me to act discreetly. Safeguarding myself, the emperor's expression darkened, his fingers tapping the tabletop with increased force. Did your father know of this? Father was unaware at first. I shook my head. Mother dared only investigate in secret. Only days before her passing did she entrust some evidence to father and write that warning letter, to protect the entire Shen family. Father could only resign his post, citing ill health, and retire from public life. Never mentioning this matter to anyone, I retrieved a brocaded box from my bosom. Opening it revealed several dried herbs and a note. These are special herbs Mother extracted from the Xiao family's private soldiers' wound medicine. The potency is fierce ordinary. Soldiers would never use it. Only Priv, 8 troops, constantly at war and needing rapid recovery, would employ such remedies. The note detailed the training grounds of the Xiao family's private troops. But before she could report this to your majesty, she met a tragic end. The emperor picked up the herbs, bringing them close to his nose. His expression grew increasingly grave. Old General Xiao truly harbors wolfish ambitions. though I suspected it years ago. I lacked concrete evidence and could only bide my time. Regarding the betrothal, I continued. Mother had always opposed it. She understood the Xiao family's ambitions and did not wish for me to be drawn into this political vortex. More than anything, she feared I might become a pawn in the Xiao family's scheme to co-opt the Shen family and counterbalance your majesty. Yet imperial will could not be defied, so she devoted every effort to shielding me. All those years, I wore a veil, appearing low-key, yet secretly studying medicine and strategy. The medical texts Mother left behind contained not only medical knowledge, but also her analyses of court politics and insights into human nature. I lifted my gaze to meet the Emperor's. My eyes filled with resolve. I am no delicate flower sheltered from the world. From the moment my mother passed, I knew I would eventually have to face all of this. The Emperor gazed at me, a flicker of remorse crossing his eyes. You've suffered greatly. When I arranged this marriage, I only considered the balance of power in the court. I never imagined it would place you and your mother in such peril, Your Majesty. You need not blame yourself. I shook my head. Without this marriage, without my mother's arrangements, I could never have endured all these years. Gathering this evidence, what I've never understood is why the Xiao family dared to cultivate private troops so brazenly. Because they have powerful backers. The Emperor's voice turned cold. General Xiao's wife is the daughter of the Grand Tutor from the previous dynasty. Though the Grand Tutor is deceased, his former students and associates remain throughout the court and the realm. And they maintain connections with certain feudal princes. It is through these connections that the Xiao family dared to secretly build their power. My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't realized the Xiao family's backing was so formidable. No wonder Mother, even after obtaining some evidence, dared not speak out lightly. Su Lianyue's father was the deputy commander who assisted General Xiao in training his private army back then, the Emperor added. He was silenced by General Xiao over a dispute about the division of spoils. Su Lianyue must have known some of the truth, which is why she approached Xiao Jingxuan, waiting for an opportunity to exact revenge. So, that was it. I finally understood that Su Lianyue's approach to Xiao Jingxuan was not merely about love. She also bore a blood feud against the Xiao family. Your Majesty. I rose and bowed. This humble servant begs your permission to continue investigating covertly, gathering complete evidence of the Xiao family's treason, my mother's vengeance. The Shen family's injusticeth, humble servant must see them righted. The Emperor helped me up, his gaze resolute. You need not act alone. I shall assign men to aid you. But remember, the Xiao clan's roots run deep. Proceed with utmost caution, not stir the snake from its lair. Your servant will heed your Majesty's counsel. A warmth filled my heart. The days of endurance and solitude found anchor in this moment. Had your mother delivered the evidence to me back then, perhaps she wouldn't have met such an end. The Emperor's tone carried a hint of regret, but she was too cautious, and placed too much trust in her own abilities. Mother feared implicating your Majesty, I murmured softly. At that time, your Majesty had only recently ascended the throne. Your foundation was still unstable, and the Xiao family's power was vast. If she had rashly reported it, it might have caused turmoil in the court, giving the feudal princes an opportunity to exploit the situation. The Emperor remained silent for a long while before speaking slowly. Your mother was an extraordinary woman. You have inherited her wisdom and resilience. With you by my side, I am certain we will soon eradicate the Xiao family. This malignant tumor, this humble servant vows to fight alongside your Majesty, I declared solemnly. The crackling charcoal fire in the warm chamber cast a steadfast glow upon our figures. Years of secrecy had finally been laid bare. A heavy burden lifted from my heart. In its place arose a resolve for vengeance and a duty to protect our nation. I knew the path ahead would be strewn with thorns. The Xiao clan would not go down without a fight. Su Lianyue's allegiance remained uncertain. And there might be even more hidden enemies lurking in the shadows. But I was no longer alone. With the Emperor's support, the wisdom my mother had left behind, and the hopes of the entire Shen family resting upon me, I feared nothing, Your Majesty. I recalled something. Though Xiao Jingshuan now expresses remorse toward the servant, he remains a scion of the Xiao family. Is he aware of their ambitions? I believe he was initially unaware, the Emperor mused. But his recent actions in court may stem from General Xiao influence. Or perhaps his own ambitions have grown. Regardless, he is now part of the Xiao clan. We must guard against him. I nodded in agreement. Xiao Jingshuan's remorse might be genuine, but when faced with the choice between family interests and personal feelings, his ultimate decision remained uncertain. The hour is late. You should rest. The Emperor rose. I will send word regarding subsequent matters. Do not act rashly. Your servant bids Your Majesty farewell. I curtsied. Watching the Emperor's departing figure's clarity suddenly filled my heart. Years of endurance and waiting had finally reached a moment of clarity. Mother's wrongful accusation. The Shen family's crisis. The turmoil in the courtal would be settled in this decisive confrontation. Li brought a cup of hot tea. Miss, have you finished speaking? Do you feel better now? I took the warm tea. Its heat slid down my throat, dispelling the chill within my heart. Much better. Li. Starting today. Please organize the medical texts and notes Mother left behind. There might be more clues we've overlooked. Yes. Miss. Liu nodded firmly, her eyes gleaming with resolve. I will sort them meticulously, leaving no trace unexamined. Gazing at the medical texts and letters on the desk, I silently vowed, Mother, your daughter will fulfill your dying wish. I will eradicate the Xiao clan, protect the Shen family, and restore clarity to the imperial court of Dayin. The veil has fallen. The truth has been revealed. The path ahead. I shall tread step by step, unwavering, no matter how many trials and tribulations lie before me. I shall not retreat. For I am Shen Qingyi, my mother's daughter, and the Empress of the great Yin dynasty. The first winter snow had fallen, blanketing the vermilion palace walls and glistening glazed tiles. Icicles hung from the eaves of Fenji Palace, refracting a cold, crystalline light. I was reviewing the winter supplies inventory for the inner palace with my trusted matron when hurried footsteps echoed outside. Green Petal burst in, her face ashen. Lady. Su Lianyue. Su Lianyue set herself ablaze outside the general's residence, declaring she would expose the Xiao family's crimes. My vermilion brush faltered, ink spreading into a small black blotch on the Xuan paper. Su Lianyue couldn't hold back any longer. The fire of her vengeance had finally ignited. Prepare the palanquin. We go to the general's residence. I rose immediately, the hem of my phoenix robe sweeping across the desk, stirring a gust of wind. This matter concerned the evidence of the Xiao family's crimes. The injustice done to my mother, I must go personally. The imperial carriage rolled along the snow-covered palace road, its wheels crunching through the packed snow. I lifted the curtain, gazing out at the capital city blanketed in silver. My heart grew still. This storm was finally upon us. By the time we reached the general's residence, the area was already teeming with people. Su Lianyue stood atop a raised platform before the gate, clad entirely in white. Dry firewood was piled beneath her feet, a torch clutched in her hand, her face etched with utter resolve. Xiao Jingshuan stood below the platform, his face ashen, attempting to plead with her, only to be cut off by her sharp rebuke. Xiao Jingshuan, spare me your false pity. Su Lianyue's piercing voice cut through the crowd. Do you think I don't know my father was silenced by yours? Do you think I don't know the Xiao clan has been training private armies? Plotting rebellion. Today, right here, I will expose every truth, even if I am reduced to ashes. I will never let the Xiao clan off the hook. The crowd erupted in a roar of murmurs, the whispers washing over them like a tidal wave. Never had the common folk heard such earth-shattering secrets. They whispered among themselves, their eyes fixed on the general's mansion with terror and dread. Xiao Jingshuan's face drained of color, his entire body trembling. Lianyue, what nonsense are you spouting? How could my father do such a thing? Have you been incited by someone? Incited. Su Lianyue gave a bitter laugh, pulling a scroll of documents from her bosom. This is my father's own handwritten record. It details the number and locations of the private troops the Xiao family has cultivated, along with evidence of collusion with the feudal princes. Xiao Jingshuan. Look. Is this not your father's handwriting? She flung the scroll downward. Xiao Jingshuan caught it, unfolded it, and instantly drained of color. The familiar handwriting and clear documentation left him utterly defenseless. Just then, the distant clatter of hooves echoed as the emperor arrived with his imperial guards, his expression stern and commanding. Officials, drawn by the commotion, gathered around, each wearing a different expression. Su Lianyue saw the emperor, and a flicker of hope passed through her eyes. She raised her torch high. Your Majesty, this humble subject, Su Lianyue, is willing to die to bear witness. The Xiao family plotted rebellion and deserved death 1,000 times over. I beg your Majesty to avenge my father and rid the realm of this scourge. The emperor raised his hand, signaling the imperial guards to step forward and control the situation. Su Lianyue, lower that torch. I shall personally uncover the truth and see justice done. If your Majesty does not order the arrest of the Xiao family at once, I shall die here today. Su Lianyue's resolve was unshakable, the torch in her hand nearly touching the dry kindling beneath her. I stepped down from the imperial carriage and walked slowly to the platform, gazing at Su Lianyue. Miss Su, this palace and His Majesty will certainly clear your father's name. But if you burn yourself to death, not only will you never see the Xiao family brought to justice, the truth will sink into oblivion. Your father's spirit in heaven will find no peace. The Lianyue looked at me, her eyes filled with complexity. Your Majesty, the Empress, why would you help me? I am not helping you, I replied calmly. I am avenging my mother, clearing the Shen family's name, and ridding the great yin of treacherous villains. The records your father kept corroborate the evidence in my possession. Is sufficient to convict the Xiao family. I raised my hand, signaling Lu to present the box of herbs and the note to the emperor. Your Majesty, this is the evidence my mother gathered years ago, combined with the documents in Miss C's possession. It conclusively proves the Xiao family's treason. The emperor took the evidence, flipping through it briefly. His expression darkened further. He turned to Xiao Jingshuan, his voice icy. Xiao Jingshuan, what more can you say? Kneeling on the ground, Xiao Jingshuan clutched the document tightly in his hand, tears streaming down his face. Your Majesty, I had no idea my father would commit such an unthinkable act of treason. I am willing to atone for my crimes by assisting Your Majesty in capturing the remaining members of the Xiao family. I beg for a chance. No sooner had he spoken than the sound of battle erupted from within the general's residence. The old General Xiao burst out, leading his private soldiers in a desperate attempt to break through the encirclement. Jingshuan, you unfilial son, at this critical moment, you still refuse to fight alongside me? Father, turn back while there is still time. Xiao Jingshuan cried out. But the old General Xiao kicked him aside. Imperial guards immediately engaged them, and fierce combat erupted. Blood quickly stained the snow, turning the scene chaotic and brutal. Watching this, Su Lianyue's eyes flashed with resolve. She violently hurled her torch at the dry wood, attempting to set herself ablaze. I had anticipated this and signaled my guards to rush forward and rescue her. Miss Su, you must live to see your enemies brought to justice. I looked at her. Your vengeance. I will see it done. Guarded by soldiers. Su Lianyue struggled and cried out. Let me die. What meaning is there in my life now? You must live to witness the entire Xiao family executed, to bring peace to your father's spirit. My voice carried a hint of sternness. If you dare die, you betray your father's sacrifices and all those who fought to uncover the truth. Su Lianyue froze, tears streaming down her face. Yet she ceased her struggle. The fierce battle raged for an hour. Ultimately, General Xiao private troops could not withstand the imperial guards and were completely subdued. Old General Xiao was captured alive and brought before the emperor, his defiance undimmed. Victors write history. Kill or torture, meadow as you please. The emperor sneered coldly. Old traitor Xiao. You raised private armies, colluded with feudal princes, plotted rebellion, and killed loyal ministers and generals. Your crimes deserve death 1,000 times over. I sentence your entire clan to execution by decapitation, to serve as a warning to others. Your Majesty, spare my life. Xiao Jingxuan bowed repeatedly, his forehead striking the snow-covered ground, blood flowing freely. I am willing to atone for my crimes with my life. I beg your Majesty to spare the rest of the Xiao family. Watching Xiao Jingxuan's pitiful state, I felt not a shred of pity. The Xiao family's crimes were too numerous to list. They could never be atoned for by his death alone. The emperor pondered for a moment before declaring, considering you were unaware and show a willingness to atone through service, I shall spare your life. However, you shall be stripped of your noble status, exiled to the frontier, and forbidden from ever returning to the capital. I thank your Majesty for his mercy. Xiao Jingxuan, as if granted a pardon, bowed his head once more. The storm finally subsided. The Xiao family was confiscated. The old General Xiao met his punishment. Xiao Jingxuan was exiled to the frontier, and Su Lianyue's wrongs were finally cleared. By the time she returned to the palace, the snow had ceased. Sunlight pierced the clouds, bathing the snowdrifts in a dazzling reflection. Upon hearing the news, the imperial consorts flocked to Fenyi Palace to pay their respects, their eyes brimming with awe. They finally understood that the seemingly gentle Empress was no one to be trifled with. When the emperor arrived at Fenyi Palace, his face bore weariness, yet also a hint of relief. King Yi, the Xiao clan is eliminated. The court can finally find stability. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Heartfelt congratulations. I curtsied. This is all due to Your Majesty's brilliant and heroic wisdom, which enabled the complete eradication of the treacherous. The emperor lifted me up, his gaze tender. Without the evidence you gathered, without your steadiness in restraining Su Lianyue at the critical moment, this turmoil would not have been quelled so smoothly. King Yi, you have rendered great service. This servant merely fulfilled her duty. I murmured softly. Henceforth, the imperial harem shall be entrusted to you. The emperor gazed at me. I trust you to manage the harem with impeccable order, freeing me from all worries. This servant shall not betray Your Majesty's trust. As the sun dipped below the horizon, golden rays bathed the crimson walls of Fenyi Palace in a warm, serene glow. My mother's wrongs were righted, the Shen family preserved, and the court of the great Yin restored to integrity. I had finally fulfilled my mother's dying wish. Lu brought a cup of hot tea. Miss, it's all over now. You can finally rest easy. I took the warm tea, gazed out the window, and a faint smile touched my lips. Yes, it was all over. Those years of endurance and waiting, those years of fear and unease, vanished into thin air at this very moment. I was no longer Shen Qingyu, forced to live cautiously behind a veil, no longer the pitiful woman whose betrothal was broken. I was the Empress of Dian, Shen Qingyi, the mother of the realm. With my wisdom and resilience, I earned respect, safeguarded my family and nation, and protected myself. Storms may still come in the days ahead, but I no longer fear them, for I know I have the Emperor's trust, the support of the Shen family, and the courage and wisdom my mother left me. I will hold this imperial throne firmly, assist the Emperor, manage the harem, ensure lasting peace for the great Yin dynasty, and bring prosperity and contentment to its people. The story ends here. Thank you all for your companionship. See you in the next chapter.